it's Char BB, which is kind of a lame name, but it's a fun font because it's all fiery. It's like Katniss Everdeen's font. I am a big fan of the Hunger Games, although I recognize that the Hunger Games are a complete ripoff of many, many other science fiction stories that came before them. But that's okay, because as everybody knows, there are no new ideas. Everything is stolen from somebody else. Which is why I don't really understand why people get mad when somebody says, your music sounds just like mine. There's only 8 notes. There's not a lot you can do. Is there only 7 notes? I don't know anything about music. A, B, C, D. Yeah, 7 notes. Look at that. So even less. Because one of my favorite songs by a band I like, and the song I like, the band earned no money because the Rolling Stones took all their money. The song Bittersweet Symphony. None of you know that song. You should. It's a great song. No, because I said so. If you care, you will go look it up on your own time. Bittersweet Symphony. The band is The Verve. You will know it when you hear it. All right. Before we go any further, I have to review something for you. You already know what I'm about to discuss, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. What happens, what is different from the 2 things I'm about to write down? 4x plus 2y squared and 4x minus 2y times 4x plus 2y. What is the difference there? Lucas. Right. This is a difference of squares, correct? So what is going to happen to this when I multiply it out? There's going to be what? When you FOIL, what happens to the linear term? The middle term, what happens to it? It disappears, right? So this, if I were to FOIL it out, ends up being 16x squared plus 8xy minus 8xy minus 4y squared. And the linear term, which is the term without an exponent, drops out, right? Does that happen when it's plus and plus? No. Does it happen when it's minus and minus? No. In these 2 cases, the linear term stays around. Now, you all remember that from grade 10 factoring, right? It's x squared minus 16 is x plus 4, x minus 4, right? We all remember that, yes? Okay. So now take this knowledge that you already knew or were just reminded of and come over to here and tell me what is wrong with this expression. What isn't allowed there? Radicals in the denominator. So we have to make them disappear. Now you guys are smart kids. To get rid of root 15, what must I multiply it by? Root 15. To get rid of root 10, what must I multiply it by? Root 10. Now, what do I got to put there to make sure that the middle term drops out? A positive. Why? Because I've got a negative here, and I need to make my linear term disappear. If I multiply this by a negative, I'm going to have root 150 and root 150 in the middle, aren't I? And that's no good, because I don't want any roots in the middle, or in the denominator of a fraction, correct? All right. Now, this right here is what we call the conjugate. All right? I'm going to highlight it because it's a word I'm going to use a lot, and you got to know what I'm speaking of. The conjugate is, because it's not necessarily just a binomial. How do I want to put this in words? The conjugate, I'm going to say, is the same binomial, or not binomial, the same polynomial with opposite signs. And the point of it is it's to get some terms to cancel. And it's a part of rationalizing the denominator. Now, you guys are smart kids. If I multiply the bottom by root 15 plus 10, what do I have to multiply the top by? Same thing. And we remember that this is okay because this is 1, right? And anytime we multiply by 1, we don't change a value. We just change the looks, okay? So if I were to do this, run your conjugate through this expression, what do I get in the numerator now? I'm going to write it out. You guys would, of course, just do the work. This is 7 times 15 plus root 7 times 10 over what? No. 15 plus 10, right? 15, not plus 10, 15 minus 10, right? Because 15 times root 15 gives me 15. We know our middle terms are dropping out, and root 10 times root 10 gets me 10. And then, of course, I would simplify to root 105 minus root 70 over 5. Not 15 over 5 plus. Okay? Now, what must I check for now? Simplifying. Where is the only possible simplification? 105 and 70. And neither of them will simplify. Because 105 is 7 times 3 times 5, and 70 is 2 times 7 times 5. 2 times 5 times 7. So they don't simplify, so it's done. Everybody cool? So the only thing that you learned today is this term and what it is. Everything else still applies from yesterday. Okay? Nothing new. Now, remember, the rules aren't going to change. It's only the way it looks. Yes? So let's look at this one right here. What must I multiply by? Is the 2 allowed on the bottom? Yes. What isn't allowed on the bottom? The roots. So do I need to multiply by the 2? No, just the roots. So I got to multiply by root 3 minus root 2. Because I need that linear term to drop out. And then I got to do the same thing up top. Now, you guys are smart kids. It's no different up top. Now, it's just FOIL instead of a single distribution, right? I always like to do the denominator first. Root 3 and root 2 gives me what? Root 3 times root 3 is 3 times 2. So what's that? 6. So this is the first one I'm going to do. And I'm actually going to write it out. 2 root 3 times root 3 minus 2. Because root 2 times root 2 is 2. I'm writing this out now for you guys. Would I write this out this way if I were just doing this work on my own? Of course not. I would do that in my head, and I would get 2 times 3 is 6 minus 2, which would end me at 4. Is everybody cool with the denominator? Okay, now the top, we just got a FOIL. 3 root 2 times root 3 is 3 root 2 times 3. Right? First, outside, 3 root 2 minus 3 root 2. So it's minus 3 times 2, correct? Because root 2 times root 2 is 2. Then inside, root 3 times root 3 is plus 3. And root 3 times root 2 is minus root 6. Now I simplify. 3 root 6 minus root 6 is what? What's 3 root 6 minus root 6? 2 root 6. So I've got 2 root 6, and that takes care of these. Now, let's check here. I had 3 times 2, which is 6, right? And then I had 3 root 3, 3 times 3, which is 3. Yes? So, what do I put now? How do I collect these like terms? What is it? -3. And I'm done. Okay? I want you to leave it here. Even though some of you would say, you could make this argument. 2 root 6 over 4 minus 3 over 4. And you could simplify this to root 6 over 2 minus 3/4. I don't want you to do that. Okay? Even though this works, this is simpler. Right? Because if I were going to ask you to add those together, you'd need a common denominator anyway, right? So this is where I want you to leave it. Don't go crazy. Everybody cool? Yeah? Okay, so let's look at this one. What is my conjugate here? Root 12 plus root 3. Why don't I care about the 3 and 4? They can stay there. Now, some of you will want to put that 3 and 4 in there. Is that okay? Sure, if you want. It just makes it more difficult to simplify later. Understand? I don't like putting those in there. Because then I got to multiply twice. And every time I make a multiplication is a chance to mess it up. Yeah? So I like to keep it as simple as possible. So what's going up here? Root 12 plus root 3. And then I just work through it. What's my new denominator? Well, you know the root 12 is going to become 12, right? And so it's 3 times 12. What's that? 36. And you know the root 3's are going to become 3, right? And I've got one coefficient. So what's 3 times 4? 12. So I got 36 minus 12 in the denominator, which is going to be 24, right? Now here, some of you will want to continue with your denominator. Some of you may want to finish with the numerator here. Is there a right or wrong way to do it? Of course not. Kelvin has already said this is 12 or 24. So he has expressed his preference to finish off what he started. That's okay, I don't care. Now he's got to go back and look at the numerator. 2 root 2 times root 12 is what? 2 root 24 from 2 lessons ago, right? Plus 2 root 6. So here, are we happy? Do we have an answer? Is it the best answer? Why not? Because that might simplify. So I check. And of course it does simplify. What is it? It's 4 times 6, right? So what comes out? 2. So what I have there is 4 root 6 plus 2 root 6. Right? Yes? So what's that? 6 root 6 over 24. Are we happy? Isn't that root 6 over 4? Why? Because of that. Is everybody okay? Going once. Going twice. Sydney. Oh, you could, yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you want to make that, yeah, absolutely. You could go, that's 4 times 3, isn't it? Which is 6 root 3 minus 4 root 3, which is 2 root 3, right? Now, that, Sydney, is what I probably would have done if I were doing this question on my own. But I'm just introducing you guys to the conjugate. I want you to see it, okay? Another reason I don't do that often is simply because I forget. Because 12 isn't a big enough number, right? I can work with 12, right? If it was 54, I would simplify. But 12 I can work with. So I wouldn't necessarily simplify there. But nice catch to recognize that that's going to simplify to a root 3, right? Especially if you notice something like that. You're going to want to do that, right? Because if we simplify this, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to erase all this just to show you. This becomes 2 root 2 over 4 root 3, not 4 root 3, dumbass. 6 root 3 minus 4 root 3, which is 2 root 3. Then I would multiply by root 3 and root 3, and I would get 2 root 6 over 6, right? Right? And that would simplify to root 6 over 3. I got root 6 over 4. Wait a sec. What did I do wrong there? Because that makes good sense to me. I may have. Well, I don't think so. That's 4 root 3. So that becomes, out comes a 2, 6 root 3 minus 4 root 3, which equals 2 root 3. That's cool. Now, if I do, I might have screwed up the foiling. 3 root 12, or dummy head. 3 root 12 minus 4 root 3 times root 12 plus root 3. 3 times 12 is 36. Minus 4 times 3 is 12, which is 24. 24, that's cool. Then up on top, I had root 12 plus root 3 to get 2 root 24 plus 2 root 6, which is 4 root 6 plus 2 root 6, which is 6 root 6 over 24. What is happening there? 2 root 24 No, 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 no. Don't be silly. No, it's not. I'm going to come back and look at that in a moment. I'll come back to look at that in a moment while I tell you guys about the difference between D and E. Have a look at D and E right now. And tell me the subtle difference between the two. Right. This is a binomial, isn't it? And this is a monomial, isn't it? Oh, I don't want to write it there. Sorry. This is a monomial. So what is the conjugate here? What is the conjugate for D? Root 4x minus 1. And then I've got a FOIL there, don't I? Right? What is the 1 second, Sydney. What is the conjugate here? There is no conjugate. Why? Because it's a monomial. So what do I multiply to get rid of this one? The whole thing. It's just root 4x plus 1. So this would be root 4x minus 1. And this would be root 4x plus 1. Does everybody see that subtle difference? Right? You got to keep your eye on it. Okay? All right, so now this one is going to be 6 root 4x, right? Minus 6. Everyone agree? On the numerator over what? Root 4x times root 4x becomes what? 4x. And positive 1 times negative 1 is? Negative 1. Is everybody cool? Now, if we had reviewed factoring, which was what we're going to do next, we could go one step further here, couldn't we? Because this is really 6x minus 6, yeah? And I could pull a 6 out. But for right now, if you left it there, I'd be perfectly happy. But if you want to go one step further, then you could pull a 6 out of there and leave in root 4x minus 1. Yes? Right? Over 4x minus 1. Okay? Could you go one step further there? Where could you go one step further? Take the 4 out, 2 root x minus 1 over what? 4x minus 1. At the end of grade 11, that's where I would want you to be. At the end. Right now, if you get to here, we're happy. Is everybody good? Okay. Now this second one is much simpler. What's my denominator? 4x plus 1. Because the whole thing just disappears, right? And the top is 6 root 4x plus 1. Okay? Are you going to simplify that up there? Why not? Why am I not simplifying that? Because I would simplify this, 4x squared y cubed. I'd sure simplify that. Why is this different than that? The same reason this is different than this. This is a monomial. This is not. Okay? Everybody cool? Yeah? All right. Now, look at F, because F is the last tricky thing. What is this really? What is the 6? The 6 is a coefficient. So what is 6 doing to the next thing you see? Multiplying it, yes? So 6 times this. Now, what is happening over here? What is that really? Pardon? You could do it that way, sure. So this becomes the root of y over 3. Are you guys happy with that? Okay. So what is that really? Say that louder, please, Lucas.
6 times root y.
That's root y over root 3, isn't it? So this is what's really happening here, and I got a 6 multiplying that. So what do I really have? 6 times root y over root 3. What is 6 really? 6 over 1, yeah? So what do I really have there? 6 root y over root 3. Everybody cool? Now what's ugly there? I don't like that root 3, correct? So what do? Ah, son of a bee. Well, you do root 3 by root 3 and then you'd finish it off. You guys do up to radical equations. Do not do radical equations. Up to there and then you stop. Try your best. See how you do. What? I have an answer, I hope.
So, I don't understand how they do this.
Which part?
Like you modify this too, right?
Yeah?
No, I don't know. Like,
Okay, so root 3 times root 3 is 3, yeah? And then
yeah,
you got
but what about the 2?
yeah, the 2 is just a coefficient. So you're going to get 2 times 6, 2 times 3, which is 6.
Yes.
Okay, now what?
Yeah, but you see, so is this doing this?
Yeah.
But the 2 is doing it.
I will try.
Take it
You
off.
can retry. Well, we both can retry.
You understand?
Not real.
I just
So
so you, if this 2 is not attractive, you can double this. But
so you're saying, Peter, that you want to do that's what you want to do?
no,
You want to keep that 2?
I mean, this 2 is in the bracket, so I don't know how to do this.
So yeah, it's 2 root 3 plus root 2. Yeah. You gotta get rid of. So you gotta multiply. Oh, because that 2's in the bracket. You're saying that 2 needs to be there. You're saying that 2 needs to be there in the bracket. Holy crap. You're right. I'll fix that. I think you're right. Yeah. Because, yeah. Well, fix it. Don't worry about it.
So how do you do that?
How do you do? Well, this would still be this. Right? And then this. which is,
Are you wearing an HMS sweater?
yeah, they're going to drop out. And then this is going to be minus 2. I'm going to have 12. So it really needs to be 8.
Oh, never mind. He moved it.
Which is why
I thought it was today. I was so
right?
stressed.
We had it over 6.
No, please. And
Because I screwed that
before
up.
it said,
Right.
Are you
That's when we started the practice.
Yeah.
I'll have to
I
fix
thought
that
it was
on
today.
Monday.
But he said today. But he's moved
Actually,
Can we finish our quizzes?
you're going to get 5 minutes to finish your quizzes, yes.
it. Did you already finish?
And the back, when does the back?
I finished mine.